Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. So I've started this channel and I was thinking about making videos about software engineering and programming, and I wasn't sure what I want to focus on because, as you know, software engineering field is very vast. And in one of the places that I worked as a software developer, I got introduced to APIs and integrating them, and it seemed very interesting to me that you don't really need to start. Most of the things are already done. So many of them are free to use for publics, and there are some big APIs like Google and Amazon that everybody's are kind of aware of, but there are some small APIs which are very interesting, and I was going through them. Not all of them necessarily something that you want to use on daily basis, but there are very interesting concepts behind it. I've decided to start using these APIs and reviewing them to see how well they perform and how accurate they are.
So this is the documentation for Diversity API. The URL for it is diversitydata.io, and they generally tell you if a name is female for female or male, and the ethnicity. It doesn't have a wide range of ethnicity, but it will show you where the background of the name is. And then if you try it, it will display the gender, ethnicity, and things like that. And then it will redirect you to some other page. And then if you want to ask for more than 100, you have to call. If you want to call for more than 100 names, then you need to get the API key. But if not, you don't really need an API key, and you can just call this API freely for 100 times a day. And they just have different sections: diversity API, rate limiting, use cases, and integration. And one of the things is that you can't totally rely on this. As you saw, it doesn't have that much variety in it, especially for ethnicity. So it just tells you where a name came from and what is the background of a name. So for this project, I'm going to use ASP.NET Web Application.NET Framework, and then I'm going to give a name to my project, and I'm just going to press OK. I'm just going to close the previous project, and you use empty in web form and press OK. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to make a class so we can get the information that we are getting from response, and we can store them as an object. Okay, I made the class name diversity check, and after that I'm just going to create public string, and first one is going to be name. But later on I realized I made a mistake and I had to change it to full name because that's how it is called inside of the response. And another problem that I faced when I was integrating this API, it was with gender probability and ethnicity probability. Well, first of all, I realized that they weren't actually string and they were double. And when I tried to use that, I wasn't able to get the value because there's a space between ethnicity and probability word, and I had a trouble defining that inside of my class. Now I'm gonna create a web form I'm gonna name it diversity and press OK. So the first thing that I'm going to create is a text box to get the name. And then the other thing that I'm going to be adding here is a button to send the information to the API to make a request. Okay, now if you look at the code behind an ASPX, we see that there's a page load. We don't want anything to happen during page load. So I'm going to create an event inside of my button. So whenever it is clicked, something's gonna happen. And all of my code will go inside of this event that is created automatically for us. I'm going to use the URL that they provide us with. And then the second thing is that we're sending the full name to this URI. For this, I have a string called name, and the value of the name is going to be whatever it is inside of the text box. And make sure you put .text at the end of it. That way it means that you have text. So here I realized that there is a %20 between the first name and last name. So you have some options. You can either decide to, wherever there's in a space, replace it with %20, but here I've decided eventually to change the text boxes to first name and last name because I thought that's going to be easier and faster, which I'm going to fix later. But for now, I'm just going to test to make sure that my API is actually working with the sample that they provide us with. So now I'm using HTTP web request for making requests from the API, and then I have to pass the URI that they provide us here. And I'm not sure if this is necessary, but request.method is going to be, I believe, get. And then we are, because there is no request to send, we're just gonna start getting the response. We only send the URI, and then the full name is going inside of the URI. Inside of that label. And then I'm gonna create a stream reader. And paste my stream inside of that. Then just to test it right now, I'm going to get the response inside of the label just to make sure everything is working correctly. So now that I know that my API is working, I'm going to change the text box to two text box, one for first name and the other one for the last name. And then here I'm just gonna change my name to the first name and another string for the last name. And I'm gonna get the text from that label as well. So now I don't need that full name there anymore. What I'm gonna do to make sure I have those %20s between first name and last name, I'm going to pass the parameters, and in between them I'm going to put a string %20. And yes. So now we don't want to get the result like that. We want to get the result as parameters of an object. So I'm going to create other labels here. One of them is going to be name. Another one is going to be the ethnicity and gender. And by the way, I in this part of the video, I put the ethnicity probability and gender probability as well. I include them there too, but then I realized there is so much issue with integrating that because as I mentioned it before, there was a space between ethnicity and probability. As you can see here, gender and probability, there is a space between it, and then I have a problem putting that inside of my class. So eventually I'm going to delete that from my labels, and I'm just going to get name, gender, and ethnicity. Now we don't have label response anymore, so we have to create a string JSON. So our stream reader our stream is going to be saved inside of a JSON string. And I need to get newsoft.json, newtonsoft.json. By the way, whenever you saw there is a red line under the class name, one of the easiest and fast ways to do is to just hover your mouse over it, and there are some options that Visual Studio will automatically offer to you, and normally you're just missing one of the assemblies or libraries, and you can choose them. You can fix it easily. And now I'm just gonna use the labels that I created here, pass the parameters to those labels. And then now I'm going to use the labels that I created, and I'm going to pass all of my parameters to it. I think it would be better if they wouldn't put in space between ethnicity and probability. They should have used camel casing for that.
Thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in more reviews in APIs and how to use them, please consider subscribing. See you in next video. Bye.